So yes, I changed the title. It's about cross-device, it's about cross-platform, but it's about money, right? And if you want to make money with data, it's about leveraging your audience. So I'm going to try to walk you through this this morning briefly. So how do we make money? It's not how to make money with data, it's how we make money in our own business model. When I say we, it's legacy publishers. Let's say print publications. We've got different sources of income. It's about advertising, right? So how can we leverage data to grow advertising revenue? And it's mostly digital advertising revenue. It's kind of harder to leverage data for print advertising, maybe soon, but not right now. It's also about selling more subscriptions. Of course, it's about better retaining our customers, so low churn rate. So as you can see, these are the same questions as usual, right? So data is just a part of the answer. I don't really think it opens new questions as far as the business model is concerned, unless, which would be a third point, you could do new business model. If you look at companies like Uber or Airbnb, they are in the intermediation business, right? They don't produce anything, but they connect offer and demand. I'm sure there are plenty of business models for publishers, maybe to connect audiences, which are not theirs, and demand on the other side. But that's not what it is about today. It's about how can we leverage data for the two main things, which is advertising and circulation. The thing is to think about how you can better understand, reach, and engage with your customers. Understand, it means you need people and technology capabilities, so you better understand how people interact with your products, who are your customers, how they engage with your campaigns. So that's about the analysis part, right? That's just one part of the equation. When I hear the word data, to me it's like a cloud, right? If you look to a cloud, you might see a horse, you might see a car, you might see a face of someone you know. For everyone, data is something different. The reality there are two pieces. There is the insight piece, and there is the data activation piece. That's the action piece, which is very important. So once you understand, what do you do about that? Ideally, you want to make sure you got targeting capabilities, that you got personalization capabilities, that you can leverage on your own platforms, let's say desktop, devices, apps, emails, or beyond that on other platforms. What about Apple News? That's going to be something different, right? But there are ways to think about leveraging the data for activation in different places. We could see this morning everyone is at a different point of the data journey. With data, it can be just UX. I leverage data to better my product. For some people, it's mainly advertising. For some people, it's mainly subscription. We started the journey really 2 years ago. And the first mistake I had, was a big one, is to think too big. So I wanted to revolutionize everything with data. Go do everything. Take decision based on data, change the product, launch new businesses, transform the business model. And the reality had to start with the most obvious first step, which is making more direct money with data, which is advertising. And we talked about that just before. Our colleague from MoMe talked about that this morning. Interestingly, yes, it's where we make money, but it's where it's harder to make money for legacy publications. We all know these trends, right? Consumers, everyone is becoming publishers. So yes, the audience is growing, but everyone is a consumer and therefore a publisher. Are competitive settings are there more other publications for print? Is our competition Guardian? No. Is our competition CNN? Maybe, digitally. Is our competition AOL, Money, or Yahoo, or MSN? Probably more. Is our competition Google and Facebook? Clearly yes, and you touched that just before that. So in the meantime, it's an opportunity because there's more and more digital consumptions, but this consumption is fragmented. Most of the value is captured by big players, and also there are new tactics. Social is growing, mobile is growing, video consumption is growing. Great. So what do you do about that when you're print publications? It's pretty challenging because the advertisers, they just follow the eyeballs, which means print publications see their market share going down, and not just in print. The cake is shrinking, the market share are pretty there, right? But for digital, it's pretty hard. There's a whole trend of automation. So if you want to do business now, it's not anymore about the 3 martini lunch. You still have to do this, right? But the transaction goes with programmatic, so in a more automated way. Also, it's all about not only audience, people, context, and data against it. As a matter of fact, as the supply is going up, the CPMs are going down. And we see it. Every step we do, CPMs are keep going down. And last trend, which is a very worrying one, is that advertisers don't need any more publishers to reach an audience. And they want to be the publishers, in fact. They want to be providing content. They want to build their own audience. They want to have their direct relationship. So you can flip it a little bit, right? It's either you go home or you try to look at this as a positive trend. First obvious thing, and you touched that just before, now we can do media and data. You have to do it. You have to be able to leverage context on your platform and better targeting. Automation, there are more and more tools that help us, legacy publishers, connect our supply to the demand in an automated workflow, which is pretty good because that reduces the opportunity cost linked to the transaction, which is important. You want the sales to focus on selling. You want them to spend less time just processing orders and optimizing campaigns. And last but not least, when you got pressure on CPMs, well, you can monetize your audience somewhere else. So you start to be in a margin business. You buy audience against your profile in other publications. So that's what we talked about. If you picture your audience, in reality, you have different audiences. The surface of your audience is made of the platform and the device. So if we just take an example here, let's picture it's your website. Your website is your platform. That's an own platform, right? And the device is a desktop. It's pretty obvious. That's the audience you want to try to monetize. The old way I used to say was to say, do you want a homepage? Do you want a business section? And you try to command a bit higher CPM, and the surface of your audience is kind of shrinking a little bit. Then, when you go with much more laser targeting or granular targeting, you can command a higher CPM, but you're facing a very granular audience. It's getting smaller and smaller. And you do this with the DMP, right, or any other mechanism, which is if you want to segment your audience, you leverage the different data points. Example, we work with Oracle, Blue-Sky DMP. We're able to look at different first-party data sets, the way people engage with our web properties, what we know about them as subscribers and their demos, maybe what we know about them through former campaigns. You can slice and dice this audience. Interestingly, you can also look at third-party data coming from the marketplace. You can have access to maybe data points you don't collect. Let's say you don't collect income. You can leverage it from MasterCard data coming from the marketplace. Here you operate in a cookie-based world. It's all about cookie and mapping cookies together to either include or exclude data points. To do what? To create segments. Once you got the segments, you can activate again the segments on your platform or even beyond that. That's great. But at the same time, you're just looking at the same audience, slicing and dicing it for better targeting, higher CPM, but lower surface. You're shrinking the pool. That's what I mean by squaring the audience. Is what if you're able to square that audience and push on the 2 dimensions, be able to go cross-device and cross-platform. Cross-device. What about being able to leverage not only your online users, but your app users and your print readers and your email readers? Platforms. What about being able to leverage your audience not only on these platforms which are yours, but also on other platforms? What about social? Our readers go on social, right? We know this. What about search? What about mobile? And that's important because as we saw, most of the marketing dollars are going against social, against search, against mobile, against video. And the goal is this, bring all this together so you have a broader surface and a bigger opportunity for monetization. So there are two circles, right? First is you own devices. You got print readers data, you got device readers data, you got emails data, you got desktop. You can bring these data points together. But again, the data point is not about the surface. Interestingly, and I've been a sales guy for years, when I go and pitch an agency, you're saying, hey, we've got a great brand called The Economist since 1843. We've been reaching opinion leaders, go and advertise with us. Great. We've got print, we've got online, we've got other things. If you just go for a brief with an agency on online, you talk about your web property, and then you talk about better targeting. But you don't leverage all your audience, right? You just leverage your online audience. And you start to be compared with other players. Your reach is limited. But you've got a lot of reach with the other platforms. How can you bring together your print reach, your app reach online? How can you bring these guys to maximize your audience across all your platforms? So suddenly you get a better reach, and you can compare yourself with bigger players. That's one thing. And I will show you how it works. And the second one is how can I therefore leverage this broader audience made of all my touch points on our platform and reach them in other marketplaces. And it was touched also just before, and there are ways to do that. How can I also leverage this second circle to bring back some data points, getting more and more challenged by the way this platform behave and shut the door of data. And I saw this morning all my colleagues from the industry talking about these data sets. And you touched in one of your questions about the single sign-on or the login. That's the real constraint. Yes, we got readers here. Yes, we got emails there. Yes, we got physical address here. We got cookies. We got devices. But how do we map them? The reality, there is very little overlap. On your website, you always have a big part of your website which is anonymous. I mean, except you're on a pure paywall strategy. A big portion is anonymous. You got cookies around them. That's great. You got a huge database, which could be a transactional database for the last 10 years, but you didn't see them coming on your website, or you can't identify them on your website in the last 30 or 60 days. So that's the challenge. So you're sitting on different data sets, but you struggle to bring them together, which is a stretch, because when you talk about granularity, when you cross parameters for different data sets, it's even smaller and smaller and smaller, because there's very little overlap. The good news is there are offers on the market, and we hear a lot about that. It's mostly developed in the US. You can work with companies like LiveRamp. You can work with companies like DataLogic, which has been acquired by Oracle, and their job is to map IDs, is to find this device is attached to this cookie. This email address is attached to this device. And they do the job of mapping this together. It's not about knowing who that person is being able to map these different ideas. And that's the condition to really truly leverage your audience across. Because it's hard to push everyone to register and log in. We do this. It's important to do it as a marketer, absolutely. But you're never going to be able to qualify 100% of all your data set and map them together. So that's the way the DMP looks like now. You still have the insights and the ability to cross different data sets, but the match rep is bigger because thanks to the ID cloud, we can leverage all the touch points across the devices. Again, we square our audience. We got a much broader audience that we can slice and dice for better targeting. Reach is the first answer. And then, second side of the surface is which platform are we targeting? Which platform are we leveraging? And that's how you can do targeting on your own platforms, which is mostly banners for advertising. We don't really do push notification advertising. But you can go and see the agency and say, you know what? You've been believing in my audience for years. I can leverage all the touch points with my audience through print, online, display. I can help you leverage any digital tactics you're looking for. You want to do a bit of search, a bit of mobile, a bit of video, I can do that for you. It's pretty good because at the end of the day, We are not in the platform game. Not any marketer is waking up in the morning and saying, I want to work with The Economist. No one. What they might wake up thinking is, I got, as far as we're concerned, an opinion leader media plan. I need to reach opinion leaders. What they do is, look, I got a print brief, I got an online brief, I got a mobile brief, and for each of these briefs, they go and meet different players. The goal is you, us, to go back to the agency and say, you know what, if you believe I'm good in opinion leaders, maybe more for a century as far as print is concerned, I leverage that understanding, I leverage these data points from all the platforms to help you build your media plan, whatever your strategy is. And I can provide advertising, I can provide also content solution. Most of us do that more and more, white labeling some solution. So it's about tactics, it's about platforms, and it's about a bit of social, mobile, video, etc. It's really shifted the paradigm about being a sales. The sales today is not just saying, here's my brand, here are our platform. It's really saying, I can solve your problem, marketer, and you can work with us even if we're a legacy publication. That's advertising. As far as we're concerned, advertising is great, but that's not our bread and butter. We've been in a lucky position to be profitable with circulation for a while, which is we love advertising, which is straight profit to the bottom line, but circulation is key. And we all sense this. We've all been going through a turmoil on advertising, and we all try to go back on circulation and say, oh, I need to charge for the content. These mechanisms can be leveraged for acquisition. We are advertisers. We are also looking for eyeballs. That's the same mechanism. So as an example, with the DMP, we've been able to look at who are our customers, how do they engage on the website, and once we identify these key customers, go and find more like them, lookalike targeting. It seems obvious, but again, it's a shift of paradigm. We used to try to portray our key customer. Key customer is at this age, this income, this interest. It's not true. Your set of customers is made on a lot of combination of a lot of attributes. So the interest of data is just to select audiences, pull as many data sources as you can from your and third party, and plug all this signal, all this noise, to find more people like them. And that's how you can go beyond your platform to say, I want to retarget people like them, but are not subscribers, exclude, and you can target them in display, in search. That's the way we do campaign now in acquisition. It changed the whole way for us to process. And return on investment is good. We've now reduced acquisition costs by 50% in the last year. And on this campaign, we got normally a return on investment of £10 by £1 invested in digital. That was the first year. I'm not sure we're going to go down and down like that every year. Then it's going to be about scaling the volume, right? It's not going to be about reducing the acquisition cost. It's getting more eyeballs at this price, which is going to be another challenge. You can also use it to do win-back campaigns. How can you re-engage with former subscribers online? How can you retarget them through search, not just blasting an email? That's the way you can use it. And there is a last point, which is pretty obvious, right? It's you can use it to better understand your customers just for insight purpose, back to just the insight, to think about product roadmap, to think about customer challenges. And normally when you look at your customers, you look at them with a spatial lens. Example, you will be on your website and see that person is interested in business and comes 3 times a week. One data set. But once you bring together all the data sets from the different platforms, you can start to step back and understand a bit more about the context, about customer journeys. Thank you. Any question?
We've got quite a bit of time to go, so we should have some questions.
When it comes across platform targeting or finding users, but how does it actually work mobile versus desktop? I have a hard time believing that these companies can actually try to use this from apps to mobile rather than to desktop. In a very good way, looking at how iOS or Android actually does not allow that. How do you see that?
I think it depends on the market. Here I'm talking about technology which is leveraged in the US. In the US, of course, it's less taboo to collect data points about identification. In the US, you got IT providers, telecom providers, sharing data and mapping physical addresses with device IDs. And you got other folks doing device ID with cookies. You got other folks doing cookies and CRM. So at the end of the day, it's interesting to see that these giants like an Oracle, for example, are now investing more and more in these capabilities of mapping because they acquired a brand like BlueKai in the past. BlueKai used to be a data marketplace. They were structuring the data, but just for cookies. And now we know cookies is not a scrutiny. Cookies is just one part of the equation. So they invest a lot into the mapping capabilities. I'm sure sometimes it's predictive, probabilistic, a lot of words. You don't really want to know too much about it, but it's an attempt to bring together. You never have a 100% match rate anyway, even with this. That's why you need to test more and more different providers. But at least you got a better match rate that you had before. Yeah.
You mentioned you're doing a lot of off-brand extensions. Are you able to share what percentage of your revenues derive from off-brand extensions?
I can't give you an exact number, right? I can do the corporate is growing. It's getting more and more because the reality, as you say, we are in the game of competing with a Facebook or a LinkedIn, and they provide eyeballs at scale. So audience extension is very key. So programmatic is a bigger and bigger portion. It's not like just 5, 10. It's getting bigger and bigger. The reality is we can play in the audience extension game as you can because we have a very specific audience. Going in the audience extension game, so retargeting, would be harder if you have a very broad audience. Because anyone can slice and dice and retarget. It's easier for us to say, we are good in this, let us do more of that. That's easier. But the audience extension is a repeat game. It's a frequency answer. It's not a reach answer. So we are more solving our problem, which is getting more inventory. But we are not so much solving the marketer problem, which is getting more eyeball. So that's why I guess if you really want to do the audience extension, you need to bring together more reach in the mix. So you can do both reach and frequency and go back to the classical GRP model. You say, do we try to email our former lab subscribers?
Yeah, but do you use the information from your DMP to personalize it?
To personalize the email?
Yeah.
You don't need, you could. We don't do that so much. We just leverage we work with a company called Selfreported. Selfreported is our ESP, so our email provider. And we leverage the semantic media consumptions to personalize email. So yes, we do it for email, but not through the DMP. I would say that the DMP today, the one we use, is mostly a campaign tool. It's not an ongoing editorial content strategy or ongoing marketing activation. It's really, I want eyeballs, I want to target them, I run a campaign. So we start to infuse a bit more personalization within editorial content through the email, because email is, you launch them one after the other, so it's kind of a campaign. But we just leverage the web analytics data, not the other data points. Not yet, absolutely.
I had a question. You mentioned before when you were talking about data onboarders being particularly prevalent in the US, so your live ramps and so on. As an international publisher, though, like The Economist, how do you manage the different data protection requirements in different markets when you're talking to an advertiser about maximizing a target segment, but you're like, well, I can give you this level of detail in the US, I can give you this in France, this in whichever other market?
So first of all, I'm lucky enough to be maybe schizophrenic, which is as Chief Data Officer, I'm in charge of the data and the data activation, but also in charge of data protection and privacy and data governance. So that's kind of both brains you try to bring together. So I got the two voices always. We could do that. Oh, you should not do that. Maybe yes. Oh, I don't know. So that's about finding the right balance. So our position, as far as the Economist, is to follow UK law. We are based in UK. Most of our business used to be in the UK. Now it's in the US. But we are based in the UK. We believe also UK is a pretty protective place for consumers. So following UK law is a pretty good way to start. Then we follow more protective laws in different countries. So we might have a different approach for Canada, for Russia, for France, for cookies. We have an explicit cookie notice. Same in Netherlands. So we try to play a bit of, yes, you need to scale. We have only one product and one global audience, but you have to have a different bid strategies. So it's true our pool might be different and our tactics might be different from a region to another. But beyond data protection, beyond the legal side of it, we also believe that privacy should not be a red tape thing. Privacy should be a good balance between following the law, absolutely, but it's mostly about respecting your customer. So you also have to know what is your own commitments towards your customers. You don't have to waive the law to tell you what you can or can't do. You have to explain what you do. You have to have your own opinion what is good or bad, and you have to let them manage their own preferences. So we do a lot about that. And in the meantime, try to address your own business needs. You know, we have to scratch our own mind to say, could we do this? Does it make sense for the customers? But does it make sense for us too? And vice versa. So it's always an ongoing thing. Yes, latest safe harbor has been an announcement of a bit of an interesting challenge. The good thing is I think safe harbor is mostly about PII. So if you just talk about anonymous identifier, you're not exposed in the same way. And also if you have good privacy practices with your customer, it's fine.
Can I just pick up on that and ask for a little bit more detail on what regime you would treat someone under, if you see what I mean? Is it based on where they register, where they're accessing the site from, or demographic details about where they're physically based?
I mean, on the privacy standpoint? That's a good point. Somebody asked me recently, why do we have a kind of a country field when you register? That's mostly about where you say you're based. That's mainly, when you say you're based, it's for email, for example. But the website is where you are. Because at the end of the day, so it's kind of both ways, so it's not easy. I'm sure sometimes there are some overlaps. There is such thing you can do, right, sometimes. So a cookie explicit consent is in a cookie word. The cookie is mostly in a browsing place. Browsing is mostly about geo-targeting. Therefore, it's where you are when you open your desktop. An email is more about where you are originally from, I guess. We could kind of add serve and differently, but we mostly look at registration country as far as email, for example. But yes, that has so many dimensions, it's not always easy.
Hi, do you utilize self-reported data from your audience in terms of surveys to enrich the data set that you already have?
What do you mean, sorry?
Do you ask the audience to contribute self-reported data?
That's a very good question. Everybody has a different point of view on this. A few years ago, it was just mostly about surveys. Let me run a survey, let me know about my audience, let me ask them, right? And then it's been also about let's ask them when they do something with us, registration stage, subscription. In the meantime, we're all driven by better conversion. So marketers are saying, whoa, let's not ask too many questions at the registration page because it might drop off, they might not convert. So we release this touch point, which are fantastic opportunities to know more, but we release this touch point from too many friction and questions to make sure they do register and subscribe. And then we go through more and more progressive profiling and try to come back to them more so. That's the former way to approach it. In the meantime, to know more about them, I know it's great to say first party is better, asking ourselves is better. In the meantime, everybody's collecting data about our users. They already said everything about them on LinkedIn or Facebook. They already said everything or collected everything about them through MasterCard. So do we want to ask again or leverage somebody who asked in a good way or did collect in a good way and just append it on top. That's why we try to find the balance. If we ask, this has to be a really relevant question. And ideally, we hope that what we ask is more about bettering their consumer experience and not just our targeting capabilities. That's the one where we try to find what is the right balance.
Okay, well,
Right,
thank you
thank
very
you.
much.